Hi, my name is Jillian York, and I am presenting today my forthcoming book, which is called Silicon Values, The Future of Free Speech Under Surveillance Capitalism. I'm really excited to share this preview with you. You're only the second group of people that I've shared it with, and the other one was private as well. And particularly because this is the community that brought me to the work that I do. So let me just tell you a little bit about the book, and then I thought that I would maybe read an excerpt, and then I could take questions. So this book has been a decade coming, really, for me. It documents the past 10 years of content moderation and looks at the ways in which power and politics play a role in how platform regulations get made, not just regulations in the legal sense, but also platform policies and how content decisions are made. So when I started writing this, I didn't really know where I was headed, but I knew that I had this treasure trove of stories. And the ones that really stuck out to me were the ones from 2011, 2012, stories like when the Facebook page for that We Are All Khaled Said that called for the January 25th revolution in Egypt, that page went down on Thanksgiving 10 years ago last week, actually. And it was restored, it went down because the administrators had violated the real names policy. This is a pretty well-known story. But it was restored because of the help of various groups and human rights defenders. And ultimately, it was restored because of personal connections. And I think that that's really what's at the core of a lot of this. I think anyone who's listening who works on content moderation issues knows this, but those who have access, those who have friends, are the ones who are able to get things done. And it's a really unfortunate and wrong and stratified world that Silicon Valley operates in. And so that's why I called it Silicon Values. So the book it's coming out in March. I have already written to a couple of bookstores in Lebanon, and Antoine says that they will have it in April. But you can also order it online. I don't encourage anyone to order from Amazon, but it is there. It's also available at Verso, which is my publisher, and some other websites. It's easy to find. But anyway, the book takes us through from 2007, which is the excerpt that I'm going to read in a moment, and looks at how companies first implemented their values, or their stated values, to the world, and then later shifted because of external pressures from governments, from policy groups, etc. And it looks at a number of different topics. So a huge topic of the book, of course, is demonstrations and protest, not just in Egypt and Tunisia, but also in the US in the past few years, and a little bit of Hong Kong thrown in there for good measure. It also looks at sex, sexuality, and gender. There's 2 chapters dedicated to that, the human body, and topics that platforms have kind of waffled on when it comes to expression, things that they don't consider to be free expression, despite those things being free expression under international human rights standards. And then we also, of course, look at automation and hate speech. And I hope that I've left readers with some hope for the future. So without further ado, I had the page and then I lost it. Sorry about that. I'm going to read from chapter 2, which is called, just share it with you, Offline Repression is Replicated Online. And it starts with a quote. Companies sometimes construct these quasi-public spaces in ways that seem like fun houses to their own employees, but end up as houses of horror for people who live and work in very different contexts. That's from Rebecca McKinnon, the founder of Ranking Digital Rights. In 2007, while still in its infancy, YouTube made a decision that would have an impact on its policies for years to come. After reading multiple reports about an account containing graphic videos of police brutality, the company's operations team shut the account down. That account belonged to Wael Abbas, an Egyptian human rights activist and a member of the early Arab digital vanguard, a loosely connected transnational group of bloggers and techies, many of whom had met through the network known as Arab Techies. Abbas was one of Egypt's first and most influential bloggers, known for being unafraid to tackle subjects like police brutality and corruption. His achievements had not gone unrecognized. Just 1 year before, he'd been the first blogger to receive the Knight International Journalism Award. As cameras became smaller and less expensive, many bloggers began producing and sharing video content to show what was not seen on television. As such, when YouTube rose to popularity, it was a natural transition for Abbas to start posting videos there instead of on his own blog, which was a much more cumbersome process. He took advantage of the platform's centralized hosting and discoverability features to gain more attention for his videos of anti-government protests, voting irregularities, and human rights abuses. By the time his account was suspended in November of 2007, he had posted hundreds of videos, dozens of which depicted police brutality. For many of his fellow activists, the videos confirmed long-held suspicions, but were nevertheless shocking to witness. One video in particular depicted a police officer sodomizing 21-year-old microbus driver Imad al-Kabir with a stick. The video was recorded by another officer and sent to al-Kabir's colleagues in an effort to humiliate him. Egyptian newspapers only published still images from the video, but Abbas, after managing to get a hold of the copy of the video, published it to YouTube, where it quickly went viral in Egypt and ended up being used to prosecute 2 policemen who participated in the torture of al-Kabir. It was a rare moment of holding the powerful to account. The suspension of Abbas's account made international headlines. He contacted friends abroad and international human rights organizations and spoke to the media about the suspension. A Reuters Newswire article from November 27, 2007, just last week, quotes him saying that YouTube had informed him that there had been numerous complaints about the content of his feed, particularly the videos that depicted torture. He also contacted the US Embassy, which instructed the State Department to contact Google, as evidenced by a cable later released by WikiLeaks. Abbas's account was restored shortly thereafter. Whether it was the government's intervention or that of human rights groups is a detail long forgotten by those I queried. The Wael Abbas case was really distinctive to me because it occurred at around the same time Google acquired YouTube, Google counsel Nicole Wong told me recently. And I was trying to wrap my head around what it meant to apply content rules to a video platform. We were using a lot of the same rules from Blogger because we wanted YouTube to be a robust free expression platform too. It hadn't really occurred to me how a visual medium would differ. Unlike the detailed series community guidelines that exist for today's YouTube users, the platform's 2007 guidelines, like those of many of its peers at the time, were pithy and light. Respect the YouTube community, they began. We're not asking for the kind of respect reserved for nuns, the elderly, and brain surgeons. We mean don't abuse this site. I know I'm running short on time, but I just wanted to share that as an introduction. And I think that those who have followed these stories over the years can see how this one incident 13 years ago now connects so deeply to incidents like 2015 when Philando Castiles was shot while his girlfriend was recording him and posting it to Facebook Live, and Facebook took it down, and all of the other stories from around the world of individuals capturing police brutality or other documenting war crimes, for example, and having platforms remove that content because of its violation of community standards. And so the book posits that it's these power differentials between the user and the corporation, that these corporations are acting almost like states at this point in time. I'm sure you've heard these arguments from me and from many others before. And of course, I could not have written this without the help of a lot of people, including a vast number of people who are part of this community. So thank you so much. And again, it's Silicon Values. I can't share copies yet, but I think I'm going to be able to publish a chapter soon. But yeah, you can order it online. And if you're in Lebanon, it'll be available at Antoine in April. Thank you so much.